Nau mai, haere mai. Welcome to 3 News. New figures out today show just under 30,000 New Zealanders left for Australia last year. It's the highest annual outflow in more than a decade. Acting Prime Minister David Seymour acknowledges it's not a good sign for the country, but says he believes there are better days to come as the economy recovers from recession. Political correspondent Zane Small reports.
Famed for its golden beaches and top surf spots, the Gold Coast is where Kiwis Danielle and Gary McKenzie have lived for more than a decade. And it's where their son Travis calls home.
Whoa!
We've got really good beaches and the weather is just so nice.
But the Queensland sunshine wasn't the only drawcard. Danielle works in purchasing in an office role. She says the pay in Australia is superior.
The wages were just so much better. I know people that have moved over and doubled their wage with a very similar job, so that speaks for itself.
New migration figures out today speak for themselves too. Statistics New Zealand reports a net migration loss of 30,000 Kiwis to Australia in the year to December 2024. That's the biggest annual outflow since 2012, when 43,700 people made the move.
Honestly, it doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't surprise the union representing nurses either, because they're being lured in their thousands across the ditch with better pay and conditions.
The last data we could get hold of was 23-24, and there was just under 12,000 nurses, according to what we were told by the Australian authorities. And we've little reason to believe that that's got any better, and as conditions here continue to get worse, we'll see a lot more going.
It's always a bad sign to be losing people. However, New Zealand is a net gainer of people over the same period, with 14,800 net migration inwards from the rest of the world.
But TradeMe has observed a decline in median weekly rents, particularly in Wellington, where renters are paying around $50 less per week when compared to a year ago. And the exodus of Kiwis in the capital to Australia could help to explain it.
We've seen demand for rental properties fall over the past 12 months, and it's possible that Kiwi choosing to move abroad is one of the factors.
We are going through a difficult period. Yes, incomes in New Zealand are lower than they are in Australia, and that partly reflects things like much lower productivity relative to Australia and other countries as well. The cost of living here is a real issue.
There is a big and significant difference in wages, not just for nurses, but right across the economy.
The government is banking on better times to come as mortgage holders roll onto lower interest rates.
I expect that as time goes on, as we maintain really careful spending as a government, as interest rates come down, rents get lower, mortgage rates are coming down, there's a lot more reasons for people to stay in New Zealand.
But for now, Australia just keeps luring Kiwis across the ditch.
And Zane, we'll find out tomorrow if nurses will strike over pay.
That's right. As you heard in my story, the Nurses Union is not convinced that conditions are getting better for nurses here. There are 36,000 public hospital nurses that are part of the union, and this week they've been voting on whether to strike over Health New Zealand's latest offer, as it appears negotiations have failed to reach an agreement. The biggest concern, I'm told, is safe staffing issues, and union members are voting on whether to strike for 12 hours on the 30th of July. Voting closes at midday tomorrow.
And in our One News Varian poll, it's a coalition comeback, surging back to a governing majority as the three-party coalition approaches the halfway mark of its first term in office. New Zealand First is the big winner, including leader Winston Peters. Nationals regained voter confidence, while Labour's Chris Hipkins is also gaining momentum. Here's political editor Mikey Sherman with the exclusive numbers and reaction.
With the halfway point in sight, which parties are getting a second wind and which political leaders are getting a stitch? National is up 2 points on 36%. Labour down 1 on 32. That's a 4-point difference. And it's worth noting in our last poll, the gap between the pair closed by 7 points. National here regains almost half that, but not all of it. The Greens and ACT remain steady, 10 and 9% respectively. New Zealand First springing up 2 points on 7%, the party's highest result in nearly 8 years. Te Pāti Māori dipping by 1 point, now 3%, and rounding it off, the Opportunities Party and Freedom's New Zealand are both steady. Let's swing this way now to see how many seats each party gets in the House, assuming that Te Pāti Māori hold their 6 electorate seats. National on this side in blue gets 44 seats, the ACT Party in pink gets 11, New Zealand First 9, that's a total of 64 seats beyond the 62 needed to form a government. Noting the 2-seat overhang in this poll. On the other side, the opposition benches has Labour 40 seats in red, the Greens get 12, Te Pāti Māori 6, all up that's 58 seats, not enough to get a look in. Let's bring up the preferred Prime Minister numbers now. Christopher Luxon is up 1, but at 23%, he's still facing a tough crowd. Chris Hipkins is up 3 points to 20%, his highest result in a year and a half. Winston Peters continues his party's strong results, up 2 points on 7%. Meanwhile, down 2 points is Chloe Swarbrick on 4%, the co-leader under pressure last week over the Benjamin Doyle scandal. Taking an even bigger hit though, David Seymour down 3 points to 3%, the school lunches minister getting a serve of his own. Hanarāwhiti Maipi Clark steady on 1%. So that's how the numbers are looking, with politicians needing to dig deep for the second half of the term. On the global stage in India last month, Christopher Luxon was in his element.
Getting out to India, getting out to Vietnam, getting out to the UAE just this year alone has been really important.
The PM more comfortable trying to close a trade deal than dealing with questions over Andrew Bailey's ministerial resignation.
Why can't you just answer the question? Well, see, this is why you get yourself reputationally in so much trouble.
Despite that disastrous interview, the government's Global Investment Summit in Auckland and a good innings in India allowed Luxon to finally get a clear run.
I'm here to get things done and deliver for New Zealanders, and if I do that job right, they'll make a decision in 2026 that actually they're better off under this government.
I think the economy is just starting to cautiously improve, and maybe these polls reflect that as well.
While Labour dipped slightly, the parties maintained much of the ground it gained early in the year.
Labour's supporters rebounding from the last election, but we know we've got more work to do.
Chris Hipkins making a loud statement, up 3 points as preferred Prime Minister.
My job is to get as many votes for Labour as I possibly can.
While his State of the Nation speech was hijacked by protesters, Winston Peters says his work on the US stage helped soften Trump's tariff blow on New Zealand.
It's no use screaming about it. Our job is to get in front of it and make sure that at the end we do better than others.
Winston Peters is trying to be New Zealand's answer to Donald Trump.
It's his questioning of Green MP Benjamin Doyle, though, that got his supporters all fired up.
Look, we saw some appalling information and decided that the public should know about it.
It's pretty clear what the DPM's priority is here, and it's getting headlines and stirring up controversy.
Similar to last year, the Green Party cannot keep out of the headlines while blaming anyone but themselves.
But we've been trying to pitch stories about climate change to get into the news, sometimes multiple times a week, and oftentimes they're considered too complex or difficult to get across in sound bites.
Chloe Swarbrick's sound bites came under fire during the Doyle debacle. She drops 2 points.
Mate, I'm focused on the issues that matter to people and getting out there on the ground and building trust with people.
David Seymour's plunge in the polls, not, he says, due to the problem-plagued school lunches program.
Oh, I doubt it, because most people believe that parents should be feeding their children.
Te Pāti Māori, meanwhile, holding out hope.
It will be the smaller parties that will win the next government and will determine the next government. And, you know, we're very determined to be one of them.
Plenty of that optimism from all parties looking for that second wind.
We're almost exactly halfway through this government. A few winners tonight. Who will be happiest?
Well, look, I think there was something in this poll for everyone. Redemption on the right, the government able to regain back that governing majority, but also no major loss on the left. And Chris Hipkins obviously having that strong showing in preferred Prime Minister numbers. So both sides will be happy. For the government, though, this is what it looks like when National isn't distracted by its coalition partners, which has really taken up a lot of the oxygen for the coalition government in the first half of its first term. So we have seen recently, for example, again, that investment summit for National, also the trade negotiations getting underway with India. Those are positive things. And we're also seeing that Treaty Principles Bill, the controversial Treaty Principles Bill, it'll come back before the House this Thursday for its second reading. That's when National and New Zealand First will kill that bill. They will not want that issue hanging around their necks in the lead up to the May budget next month.
Unusual for Winston Peters to comment on our polls. What can we put that down to?
Well, yes. Well, Winston Peters really is the big winner, you could say, out of this poll. They have polled the highest in the party numbers, but also in preferred Prime Minister numbers. So while the results are convenient for Mr Peters to perhaps give us an interview, really what we wanted to talk to him about was the strategy for New Zealand First going into the second half of this term. We know that Winston Peters is set to hand over the reins for Deputy Prime Minister to David Seymour next month. That's really when we will see that gear shift for New Zealand First. They'll start to switch into campaign mode. Now, we did see a bit of that with the Benjamin Doyle story last week, and it must be said that we polled during that story. So we polled all the way up until Wednesday. Monday and Tuesday is when that story really got some legs. So we did capture the voter sentiment around that, which is probably why we saw that drop for Chloe Swarbrick. But in terms of New Zealand First, expect more of that style of politicking from the party as we head forward.
There's a fight on for Aotearoa's third official language. It's the language that's spoken with the hands and the heart that builds community and connection, and it's already beaten one attempt to wipe it out. That was in Italy in 1880. Experts called for a ban. New Zealand's dark ages for deaf education began.
The unsatisfactory and embarrassing system of sign language was never used.
You know, we would get smacked in our faces, we weren't allowed to sign.
Deaf children have been deprived of their most fundamental, the most basic human right of all, the right to a language. And now, 145 years later, here in Rome, it is time to say no more.
It's a full stop. So why in New Zealand are there still complaints?
I just feel that no one is listening to the parents.
New Zealand can be a third world country sometimes in terms of the actual access that our kids get.
I'm a student. I should not have to interpret if the teachers can't sign.
We want to see change, and the time is now.
Take a look at this news story from about a year ago.
3 young students stated protests in class earlier this month in frustration over a relief teacher's inability to use sign language.
We didn't like it. So we decided to take our cochlear implants off.
So that's what started our investigation, and it opened the floodgates. So reporter Thomas Mead and I got to work talking to dozens of people in the deaf community, parents, teachers, students, and they truly believe, because they've had deaf experience themselves, that they know what's best for deaf children. The lucky ones start young, and the learning keeps going, giving profoundly deaf kids like Alexia the best start.
I don't have to worry about her missing anything. She can focus on the important things, like playing, connection, arguing, telling stories. My daughter is lucky. But 95% of deaf or hard of hearing children are born into hearing families.
Hearing parents can get help from First Signs, a service giving lessons to young families. But there are only 15 facilitators funded by the Ministry of Education for the whole country.
A facilitator will visit a family once a month for 1 hour. 1 hour a month. The brain needs good quality and plenty of language exposure between 0 and 5. If the child doesn't receive language then, there are lifelong consequences.
Sean didn't have that chance. Born deaf to hearing parents, he started school with very limited language.
I would get very angry a lot of the time because no one would kind of get me. I remember a woman coming and she used sign language with me and my jaw just dropped.
Communicating is a basic human need. And if children are turning up to school without much language, it's the school's job to put that right. There used to be separate deaf schools, but since 2020 they've united to become Kōtaka Reo. It covers nearly 4,000 students in mainstream schools who get help from tutors and interpreters. And just 120 in dedicated deaf units, but they're only found in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch. Now, Sean wasn't so keen on mainstream, so aged 11, he switched to one of those deaf units.
I felt like I was in a dream. Like I finally found the right people.
Name 3 types of underwear.
Sean and his parents assumed they'd be fluent signing. Kōtaka Reo says all teachers in deaf units can sign as much as needed. Yet Sean was asked,
"Could you please help us interpret for these 2 boys?" And I was like, okay. It happens often. I was shocked that at Kotaku Reo, they would bring in teachers that didn't understand sign language, that couldn't communicate with us. I'm not blaming the staff. It's just every time we make a complaint, we're ignored all the time.
I myself have seen classrooms that have 0 sign language. And these are classrooms that have been designed for deaf and hard of hearing students.
We were told that 8 months ago. Since then, the teacher says classes have improved as there's some New Zealand Sign Language in all of them, but in their opinion, still nowhere near enough.
These younger students are just beginning their journey and we're already setting them up for failure. Whether they have cochlear implants, hearing aids, it doesn't matter. Having access to that visual language is incredibly important to access the curriculum.
We're using an actor because this person's worried for their job, and fair enough, we know staff have been warned against publicly speaking out.
There is a culture of fear among the staff. If you disagree with management, you're targeted.
Kōtaka Reo disagrees with this, saying there's no targeting and concerns are taken seriously. And yet, this.
I have felt ignored, dismissed, challenged, and the way that the deaf staff in particular have been treated is evil. And being unable to question it makes you feel complicit.
I've seen a union survey from 2023 which highlights the same concerns. Now, the school did question it, pointing out that no other reports have suggested a negative culture, but it did admit to putting 7 staff on what it calls support plans, saying that these are simply to raise teaching standards. But I've spoken to 5 of those staff involved and they say they do feel targeted. They say that they've been stood down, some for months, they felt crushed, and they've left. Now, other staff say that they find it hard to see how this is helping.
We're losing wonderful people. People with skills and experience are being forced out.
So what about the new teachers to replace them?
I think the mindset of Kōtaka Reo management, they feel that a teaching qualification is more important than sign language.
Evelyn has deaf parents, a deaf husband and other deaf family.
So fully involved in the deaf community, work in the deaf community, and it's my life.
She was unimpressed by this 2022 advert for teachers saying, "No New Zealand Sign Language needed, we support you to learn."
Teachers learning on the job, I don't think is a good thing. I try and kind of align this the same as kura kaupapa. They would not employ teachers that were not fluent in the reo. So why is deaf education employing hearing teachers that can't sign?
Because, Kotaka Reo says, there's a shortage of teachers with New Zealand Sign Language. But Evelyn knows 5 who are fluent, who feel they've been held back.
4 of them are deaf.
Really good turnout for bingo night.
That includes Corey. He's bilingual, he's grown up with this community, but failed to even get a placement at Kotaka Reo during his studies, despite being very well placed to help deaf students.
When they feel frustration, I understand that. When they feel sadness, I understand what those barriers are like trying to do schoolwork. Someone without that language probably can't connect on that level.
And there's Liz.
They have parents that are deaf, and they also themselves are a parent of deaf children. So they're quite exceptional and very fluent.
She applied to work at Kotaka Reo twice, but was rejected.
It's confusing to me as to why a school with profoundly deaf children that use NZSL to communicate wouldn't want a teacher that has fluent sign language. And they, in Australia, were willing to take me on. They said, fantastic, you've got 2 qualifications. You've got a teaching qualification and an NZSL qualification.
But the message from the school was clear.
That they were following Ministry of Education guidelines, which states that a beginning teacher has to work out in a regular school for 2 years before they can apply for a position at Kotaka Reo.
Kotaka Reo knows that it would be difficult for any deaf person to get a job. So where is their support for future deaf teachers?
How is it that an institution that was created to educate deaf tamariki can put up almost impossible barriers for someone from the same culture?
Time for Evelyn to take action.
So this is my first letter back in 2022 to pass on to the Labour Minister of Education, and I didn't hear anything back, and so this is my second letter. Gave that to Minister Louise Upston when she visited for a meeting in April this year. It was emotional. Just feel that deaf education is really, really important for our kids. Deaf role models are vital for the language to thrive if it's coming from a deaf person or someone who's grown up with a deaf family who are like what we would say native signers is just, it's invaluable. You can't put a price to it.
We followed up with National MP Louise Upston. She didn't pass the letter on to the Minister of Education. In fact, she lost it. Her office apologised and suggested that we send it ourselves, which we did, but still no reply. Now, for deaf people who want to teach deaf children, that kind of silence is so loud.
I wanted to work with deaf children. I wanted to be able to show them that just because you're deaf, that doesn't mean that you can't do what you want to do. So I wanted to be that person that goes, no, you can.
This is Becca. She was born with hearing, so she learned to talk like any other child. But by 16, her hearing was gone, along with her means of communicating.
Didn't have cochlear implants, so from 16 through to 18, I had no hearing. Really, I went to school to fill in the day. I don't think any of my teachers knew if I was in class or not.
At 22, she had Oliver. He was fully deaf from age 2. It changed everything. She put her energy into learning New Zealand Sign Language and made a decision.
That I wanted to be a teacher, and deaf education would be an amazing place for me to work.
She got her teaching degree, but then came the same letdown.
Kotaka Reo doesn't employ beginner teachers. So for me, I was just mind blown that I'd done all this hard work and still they were saying no.
She had to teach at regular school first. She sent off over 100 applications.
In the real world, people don't employ what they don't know. And so for a principal or a school to look at a CV and go, oh, that teacher's deaf, no, that's too risky.
But this school gave her a chance, not as a teacher, but a teacher's aide for a hearing child who couldn't talk. Mind you, 1 year on, she'd proved her worth. She's now the literacy specialist for the whole school.
I have so many friends that would love to be a teacher, that have done their teaching degrees, but really they can't get a job because they can't talk and they can't do like mainstream schools.
Becca wanted us to ask Kōtaku Reo why there's not more help, so I asked the school for an interview numerous times and it was always a no. It was a no from the Minister of Education too, and a no to filming in the school. Thankfully, we did at least get some answers from emails and from poring over all of these Official Information Act requests. Now, there is some good news. Beginner teachers that are deaf can now be hired directly, but only if they say there's a mentor available and only in Auckland or Christchurch. And it hasn't happened yet. I should also say there were frequent mentions of increasing the use of sign language and strengthening deaf culture, which is great. But how's that going?
For me, it feels like the change has been minute.
Take Oliver, as the only deaf kid in his class, he has little chance to sign. So he took NCEA in New Zealand Sign Language, but he says this one opportunity to improve was no help.
They were really easy last time.
Easy how?
They're still learning the ABC and all that. Numbers, really easy.
Becca wants to set the record straight on cochlear implants too.
A cochlear implant isn't a fix. It's going to give you sound in a different way. I have them on because the world around me needs me to be able to talk.
For Becca, when school's out, the implants are off.
We talk about what we call deaf, like fatigue, which is when a deaf person spends so long trying to understand what has been said verbally that they're just exhausted.
At home, they stay off.
My back garden is full with little things that have been thrown down to me to get my attention, and then Oliver signing through the window. We're just looking and, oh, I understand. Yeah, and that's why it's so important.
So important. And that is reflected by an increase in funding for New Zealand Sign Language. So why is there still a problem?
I'm not criticising all the teachers. I know they work tirelessly, but the focus of Kōtaku Reo tends to be on compliance and regulations and what they need to do to meet the criteria of funding.
Alexia's mother Amanda also learnt New Zealand Sign Language from birth. She got a law degree and a master's in education, and she's worked with deaf people in France and in the UK.
I have visited many deaf schools around the US. I have met multiple deaf professionals who have graduated as mathematicians, scientists, lawyers. And I ask myself, what's wrong in New Zealand? Why are we not producing that level of graduate?
Amanda thinks language deprivation is definitely part of the problem.
We have visiting teachers of the deaf visiting for just a few hours a week, or New Zealand Sign Language tutors coming along for just 1 hour a week. This is not full immersion.
She believes change comes from the top.
Decisions are currently made by a commissioner. He was employed because he has a wealth of experience in governance, accountancy and property management, but not in deaf education. And of the 12 school leaders, only 2 are deaf or have deaf experience.
Within the leadership team, there is no Māori leadership, and there are 45% of deaf children represented as Māori.
The Commissioner did recruit an advisory group that included deaf people, but even the Ministry of Education admits it hasn't been that effective. Now though, new roles for cultural advisors have been advertised.
And a new executive principal is being recruited, requiring conversational sign language. That was considered a realistic requirement by a group that included deaf people.
I would expect more.
So if we apply this to Māori education, do you think conversational te reo was enough? No. It's the same for deaf.
Give them the support, the guidance and the experience, and they can achieve.
There's proof right here in this recent film about Gallaudet, the only fully deaf university in the States.
We give up our soul in order to get a deaf president.
We locked all the gates, and students blocked any entrance to the campus.
And it worked.
Thinking of deaf education here in New Zealand, it's been over 145 years and we've never had a deaf principal.
Amanda sees some progress. A Deaf Futures group at the school and a board involving parents is due to be reinstated. But she says it's not enough to stop autism, meaning discrimination where hearing people think they know best.
And autism can also just be silence when you're aware of an issue, but you don't do anything to change it or to take action, to work with and consult with deaf people.
Each of these people are bravely breaking their silence.
The parents are not troublemakers, they're advocating, they are crying out for someone to realise, hey, our kids need this.
And I know the potential of me being blacklisted, but I suppose I'm trying to be a bit more resilient, thick-skinned, as we say in the deaf community, and just say, like, you know, we've just had enough.
Start listening to us. Start listening to what we need.
No mai, haere mai, and welcome to 3 News. The spring storm made a fierce entrance today, just not in all the places where forecasters expect it. There were over 1,000 emergency call-outs across the country. Dunedin and Southland didn't have any red warnings initially, but were hammered by wind and rain that caused people to run for their lives. And while Christchurch was spared, North Canterbury was hit by gusts of over 180 kilometres an hour, raising roofs, downing power lines and igniting wildfires. Here's senior reporter Juliet Speedy.
Wild winds and a lucky escape for these Otago University students. The wind lashed Dunedin. A city not under a state of emergency or red weather warning until the weather hit.
Oh, that tree just fell down.
Southland's Gore was also smashed. And Invercargill had a hammering with wind and rain. Earlier in the morning, North Canterbury's Culverden saw gale force winds that looked more like a tornado in the desert. Gales also whipped through nearby Hamner. Trees down, roofs lifted, and over 1,600 without power. And a wildfire started 5 kilometres from town, causing evacuations. Power lines down across the district.
I don't think that's meant to be there.
Causing this driver some anxiety.
Ben ain't going to get home. Whoa!
Gusts in North Canterbury reached over 180 kilometres an hour.
We currently have significant power outages across the region, particularly in North Canterbury. Damage to the roading network due to fallen trees and downed power lines. And many rural properties in North Canterbury have received damage to building and infrastructure.
The roof on this house ended up on the wrong side of the road. Flights were cancelled up and down New Zealand this morning. Well, there's certainly been some carnage and damage around the country from these winds. Here in Christchurch, it's really been a different story. Despite a state of emergency in place, all flights grounded this morning, all schools closed, we've really had nothing more than some light to moderate winds and a bit of drizzle.
I played an administrative role in putting us into that state of emergency. Without a doubt, that has proven to be the right decision. I want to acknowledge Ferns and police for their planning.
By 3 p.m. today, our Fire Communications Centre had received 261 call-outs for help across the region, which included fires, motor vehicle crashes, fallen trees and power lines, medical events, and many other weather-related incidents.
It's been a wild week, leaving some regions battered, others barely touched, and a big clean-up now underway.
Well, Juliet is with us now from Christchurch. Juliet, what are the concerns now looking ahead?
Well, Sam, the big concern is that we're on the cusp of a long weekend, and of course on long weekends people like to get in their cars and go for a nice little holiday. But the problem is a lot of the roads to the holiday hotspots are still closed and will remain closed for some time, like the road into Hamner Springs, which is a very popular holiday place for Cantabrians. So authorities are urging people planning to go away this weekend to make sure they check not only the roads and the routes they're planning to take, but also the destinations, because there are also a number of properties still with their power out. Now, the red warning, the weather warning, has now been lifted, although ironically it's windier for us here in Christchurch than it's been all day. But a state of emergency does remain in place and is likely to be lifted tomorrow. So there will still be a number of residents across the South Island who do have a sleepless night again tonight and who are still facing a large clean-up ahead.
It does look like that wind is getting up. Stay safe down there, Juliet. Thanks so much. Well, further north in Wellington, a red wind warning is in effect until 7 o'clock tonight. Flights have been cancelled in the capital with strong winds battering the waterfront and waves spilling over onto the footpath. Power outages this morning affected more than 170 homes in Upper Hutt and around 1,000 properties in Waitangi. The public was asked to avoid unnecessary travel, and this video shows why a sheet of metal was perilously hanging off the side of a building in the CBD. Well, our reporter Lloyd Burr was news gathering around the Wellington waterfront at about 11:30 this morning. Along with our brave camera operator Chino Barrett-Lovey, here's what they encountered.
Oh, whoa! We are here on the Wellington waterfront. This is just around the corner from Oriental Bay. This is not the ocean though. This is not the south coast. Okay. We're on Wellington's waterfront just around the corner from Oriental Bay. This feels like the south coast, but this is actually Wellington Harbour. I've never seen Wellington Harbour with such a swell. It is so rough and you can see the massive waves that are popping up. There's a sea spray that's coming right across the road, and if it's not sea spray, then it's horizontal rain, and it's been like this all around the coast. We've been for a bit of a tiki tour the last 4 hours in and around Wellington. It's pretty scary actually. This wind, it just shakes everything. The car, you can feel it shaking around the place. They don't pay me enough to do this. But the ferries, the inter-island ferries are still sailing. We saw the kaitaki go out just before. Do not try this at home, by the way. We saw the kaitaki go out before. So the inter-island ferry is still sailing. The Blue Bridge isn't. There's been some reports of some houses that have been blowing off. Sorry, some roofs. some roofs that have been blowing off some houses. Some minor damage, some a bit more serious. There's quite a bit of debris. But this is pretty fierce, and I'm going to go and get in the car because this is insane.
No mai anō. Tomorrow will be nothing like today, you will be glad to know. The last of the front will move northwards over the North Island and clear us early tomorrow, while another front moves on to the South Island, but lots of settled weather with high pressure sitting out to the west. So westerlies and wet weather for the southwest and some gusty winds for eastern areas too, but lots of fine weather in the mix. More settled for the North Island also, some lingering showers up top, but some sunshine to enjoy too. Heavy rain overnight that will ease to the odd shower before dawn, and then it will clear to fine for most in the morning. Whangarei could get an evening shower. A few showers early on and then mainly fine here. A real mix of wind directions, mostly sou'westers and westerlies, with some nor'westers for Whakatane. More strong winds here overnight. They should calm while it's still dark, but Hawke's Bay could get 90k gusty nor'westers and up to 100k's further south early on. A clear sky day for most though, with some high cloud at times. A few showers at first up top, but then like the rest of the group, a fine Friday. Cloud increasing from lunchtime and some strong nor'westers in Wellington, but again, nothing like today. It will be fine with high cloud for Nelson and a few showers for the rest. The westerlies could be gusty at first along the coast. And it will be a fine day for all here, but the winds will remain strong. Calmer than today though, still gusty westerlies. They'll turn nor'easterly for a bit in the afternoon around Canterbury. Fine with strong westerlies in Oamaru, partly cloudy with some wet stuff from the afternoon for everyone in central Otago. Showers for Oban and overnight heavy falls with thunderstorms right down the bottom in Invercargill. Dunedin could also get thunder before dawn, but then a mainly fine morning with a few showers in the afternoon and gusty westerlies, 17 degrees. Christchurch, a sunny day, but westerly winds. The winds will ease a bit from midday and turn nor'easterly, 19 degrees your high. Wellington, a fine day to finish the working week. Some cloud building later in the day with strong nor'westers at times, 17 your high. Hawke's Bay not as hot tomorrow. The nor'wester could still gust up to 90k's, but that will be very early on in the morning. A fine day with high cloud and afternoon nor'easters. Showers overnight for Tauranga, then a clear day with the westerlies easing after lunch. You'll get to 22 degrees. Kirikiriroa, Hamilton, a few showers before dawn, then mainly fine. Sou'westers easing in the afternoon and cloud increasing at night time, 19 for you. Auckland, heavy falls overnight that will ease to the odd shower before dawn, and they're mostly clear in the morning. Sou'westers easing in the afternoon at 20 degrees. Overseas now, again, partly cloudy for most Australian centres, bright clear skies over Sydney. And in the Pacific, mostly showery with a fine Friday on the cards for New Caledonia. Back home, let's see how the long weekend weather is looking. On Saturday, there will be some scattered showers developing in the west and the north of the North Island, and some rain with heavy falls in the west and south of the South Island, with isolated showers for the rest. On Sunday, a strong westerly flow will cover the country, so again, those showers will be in the west of both islands and at the top and the bottom of the country. But cold enough for snow to lower to 500 metres for Fiordland and Southland. Now Monday, Labour Day, this is something to keep an eye on. A trough of low pressure will move onto central New Zealand from the west. So for the North Island, there will be rain for most with heavy falls. Patchy rain to the east from Gisborne to Wairarapa. For the South Island, on and off rain in the south, rain with heavy falls everywhere else. So something to be aware of if you are planning on being on the road for the long weekend. Now, Sam, you're going to love this. Something a bit different tonight. 5-year-old Luca from Kilburnie sent in a letter. She asked, why are there no rainbows in the weather forecast? I like rainbows. Do you like rainbows? Or do you want them to be a surprise for other people, she asked. Great questions. I do love rainbows. I don't know about you, Sam. And
Who doesn't?
We should have
We
more of
love
them in the
rainbows.
forecast. But we need rain and sunshine. We haven't had so much of that recently. But check this out. Tegan snapped this today in Waitangi, not too far from where you live, Luca, and we are hoping that Sunday might be a good rainbow day for you.
That's a lovely little low rainbow there. Just to be clear, does Luca she wants rainbows to be in the forecast, so we need a new rainbow icon. Yeah, okay, this could be the biggest revolution in weather in a long time, Laura. Let's get on to it, okay, just for Luca.
What did you talk about? I was just going to say, what are you talking about? I don't know, being 60. What about just being nominated for a BAFTA?
Yeah. She's always been prepared to say what she thinks.
I wonder where she gets that from.
I've got no idea. Yeah, it must be her mother.
You really can't take this shit lying down.
She stands up for what she believes in.
The sexism and the ageism and the objectification, there's just so much to be done.
And she is the incredible Robin Malcolm.
Do you think the country's ready to hear your unfiltered views on women and ageing and how we've got it wrong?
I don't care.
Are you filming me?
This is Robin in After the Party, the series she co-created.
Put it down! Me that.
And this is 60-year-old Robin in real life.
To be an older, emotional, angry, belligerent, passionate, furious woman is fine. And so that's why we wrote After the Party.
God damn it! Fuck you!
Was in direct response to how the industry was seeing my age group and watching what was happening in Hollywood.
It's something she's been aware of for a very long time.
From about the age of 15, she was going to be an actor and nothing was going to stop her. But the sad thing about it really, and a bit political, is that being a woman, she's found it much harder than men. It's interesting.
Because you can't ignore the male domination. Some 90% of films up for top awards have more men than women in all their senior roles. Actors, directors, producers, tech people. But breaks came.
I said no, they can wait, just like everyone else.
And she grabbed them.
Fuck, Mum! You pissed off somebody you shouldn't have pissed off.
But has more now than ever before.
I would have given up a long time ago if it hadn't been for you.
Because being brave in After the Party to kind of give the finger to the industry's handling of women has been a game changer.
I'm kind of handsome and I need to be more aware of that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's been really brilliant. But also, there was a lot of risk involved.
So we join in a 24-hour dash around the country to get more on what brought her to this point. She doesn't hold back.
Nobody wants to talk about sex. I've never understood why we just don't want to talk about sex. I just figure we can't say enough. And I said, look, if you as a film company are happy to put the naked body of a late 40s woman on screen, I celebrate you. I absolutely celebrate you. Although I have to warn you that I am more National Geographic and less Playboy. And when I got to set, they had clothes for me.
But as the years went by, the funny side started to fade.
I had 3 experiences of auditioning and being considered for roles that were my age, like mid-50s. And those roles then being given to actresses 10 years, 15 years my junior. When you're no longer, to quote Amy Schumer, you're no longer fuckable, suddenly there's less tolerance around.
How did that make you feel at the time?
Furious. It wasn't crushing, But it made me furious. It's pervasive. It's like you have to attack it at every level. Since menopause, my feminism, which has always had a really healthy spring in its step, is so fucking rabid now. When I was first going through menopause, I was just sobbing my heart out, going, I don't know what's happening. And I mean, I'm on HRT, and I started on little doses of antidepressants when I hit menopause because I was feeling so shit. But how much of my feeling shit was about my place in the world and the messages that I was being given.
You know that if we lived in medieval times, you know, because we have an emotional outburst now and then, we'd have probably been like drowned or put in an asylum. That would have been us.
That would have been us. Yeah. I know. The witches of the world.
Yeah.
Like I said in
like
that
quite
speech,
seriously.
the crones of the world. I like to pinch myself every now and then and remind myself of where we are, but also look back at the last 2,500 years and really scratch my head and go, how did that happen? I blame the patriarchy, 100%. Sorry, Dad. I mean, look at where it's got us recently. There are some actresses of my age who are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to look like something that they're not. And again, I don't blame them because we're in a hell of an industry. But where I have a problem is when they then go and sell a face cream to the rest of us and go, I just look like this naturally.
Oh, yeah.
You can too for £64.99. And I'm like, that's a lie. Why are we as women so unsatisfied, so critical, so mean, so judgmental, so downright vile to this? It's so effective as a pastime that over the centuries it's become a billion-dollar industry. If you're fighting something to tell the world that you're something that you're not, which says to me that you're not happy with who you are, and none of us are immune to it. None of us are. I mean, look,
we put makeup on.
I put makeup on. So there's a, you know, we can point fingers, but then there's a bigger story to tell, which is about how we now age in the world. They say that lots of women, as they get older...
And that story includes sex.
That we go into... I hate this word. I've been using it so much this week. We go into vaginal atrophy, which about 84% of women have, and they don't talk about it because it's about the health of down there.
Well, Robin's talking about it a lot now. She's ambassador for the product My Regina, designed to give those cells and your sex life a refresh.
It's just anti-aging stuff for your vag. This is shameless advertising. You anti-age your vagina with My Regina and you'll be fine.
Except she actually thinks there's a lot that's not yet fine.
Do you think we've come far enough?
No, I don't. I really don't.
Well, it's interesting. So I saw some stats about in the workplace saying only 14% of women feel supported through menopause, and 1 in 10 leave work or are pushed out of work.
That's appalling. Yeah. Because actually all the women I know who are my age, they've got a level of wisdom, they've got a level of strength. They're people that you should have around in the workplace.
What could the workplaces do to make that better, apart from maybe a person-sized fridge you could walk into?
A person-sized fridge you could walk into. I had a friend who worked in a very male-dominated industry. She said it just used to really freak the men out around the board of directors table because she used to cry a lot. You know, it even comes down to that. It's deal with how women are, because we've been singing to your song sheet for centuries. Just start to learn how to sing from ours.
All of this fired her up for co-writing after the party. So for this leading lady, no facelift, but she does get injected with a good dose of fury.
We really dug our heels in terms of, you know, there was a bit of pushback every now and then, like, oh, she's not a very nice character, people might not like her.
which meant it was seen as a risky investment. In fact, they nearly gave up as it took 3 years to secure funding. But their dig at the industry paid off. Robin, co-actor Peter Mullen and co-writer Diane Taylor scored a heap of wins and nominations in France, New Zealand, and even the BAFTAs in Britain.
Which is like the British Oscars, and they have something like 500 entries, and then they narrow it right down to 5. So the fact that we had that level of international recognition for a little show that was written by 2 quite grumpy middle-aged women in New Zealand on a tiny budget, shot in Wellington, and we received so much love from the community in the UK, like, I'm gonna go home and tell me man it'll be made up, it's you, and I was like, oh, come. And this woman had responded to this little personal story. We're getting really serious offers from overseas. We're in relationship with...
Okay.
So we're making something new.
You can't tell us, can
No,
you?
I can't. So we're in the process of making something new, and we're doing it with people in the UK.
So heaps going on.
Yeah.
How do you find time for any of your family?
I do. I just... I don't know how I found time ever, you know. Now I'm at Wellington Airport, and I'm going to drop my bags and then go and have dinner with a bunch of parents to go and see my son's band, the American Muscle, who are playing at San Fran on Cuba Street. I'm so excited. This is my reward.
Hey! Yeah. It's important to you, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
This is her son Pete, the younger of 2.
I've been a solo mother since, well, I was still pregnant with Pete. And my father, he said to me, you can move wherever you want with your kids until they hit about 10 or 11, because up until that age, you are their world, you know. And then they get to that time in their life, and their community, their pals, their school, everything becomes everything. So I made a decision then. I went, no, they come first. They will stay here.
And how's your relationship with them now, the boys?
Amazing. They're frighteningly normal. When I meet all my kids' friends, and they're just such an amazing collection. They're under a lot of pressure because the world's in a pretty dark place, and there's a lot of pressure to succeed. So I feel like it's my job as a parent to just step back and go, no, you guys can take a breath. You know, there's no hurry. And if I can help, I'm here.
And she has another amazing relationship with her after-the-party co-star Peter Mullen.
What do you want?
Who lives in the UK.
Just to say hello.
That's obviously a long-distance relationship that has been going on for years now.
15, yeah.
15 years.
Yeah. You know, you go, well, I love you, so we'll make it work. And it doesn't have to be conventional, and we put the kids first. I remember my mother said that of Peter. She said very early on, she said, I really like this man. He's putting his kids ahead of you, and that's exactly what he should do.
And your boys want to be actors. How do you feel about that, given how you feel about the industry at the moment?
She hates that actors get paid so much less in New Zealand, and there's no quota like in Australia to ensure a set number of Kiwis get work in any production.
I can't stop them.
No.
And I wouldn't. And actually Peter was the one that said, why would you feel badly about that? It's one of the best professions in the world. I'm 60, so that was a late night for me. I was in bed by 11. Meeting Pete for breakfast. I'm buying.
Right, what are you going to have?
The croissant, the special.
Yeah, lovely.
You've got so many people in your life who are my pals.
Yeah.
You don't see any of them as old.
No, except you. I'm kidding.
The ticking over into 60, which I was quite nervous of, I think, because of what it seemed to represent, I am so in love with. I just love it. Standing up for what I believe is right without hurting anybody else.
She feels compelled to be counted on the environment, on workers' rights, and definitely on what's happening in Gaza.
We're dealing with one of the great moral catastrophes of the 21st century, probably the greatest one. And I think about that a lot now, and I wonder, can I get to the end of my life and feel good, you know, feel like I did and said all the right things for me, that I showed up and that I was honest. Can I have some support here, please? I guess you call it authenticity, I guess. And maybe that's what the last stage of life is about.
Why do people constantly say, grow a pair, grow some balls? Because it really should be grow a vagina.
It's real windy. I was just in a warehouse and it sounded like the roof was going to fall off. Yeah, it was so loud.
It hurts, to be fair, but we're mindful that the house is still there and the family's safe, and that's really what counts most.
When the winds get up above 90k, and particularly the gusts, you know, gusting over 100 plus, that's dangerous in regards to trees and open spaces and spaces near trees. Branches can come off at that speed, so we're asking people to stay out of the greenbelt and the reserve land at the moment, stay off the trails. It's dangerous.
fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.
Thank you all for watching this here video. Please like and subscribe.